All rise for the pledge, please.
Detail attention!
I pledge,
Present arms!
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order arms! At ease.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dennis Smith. I'm the PBA president. I would like to thank the village trustees and the village administrator, Rich Slingerland, for letting us host this event here tonight. This is the first time we've done it in this capacity, and we got a great turnout. I would like to thank everyone here for coming. Like I said, we had a great turnout, better than we thought. And I'd like to congratulate all the award recipients today. I'd like to thank the Emerald Society for their great performance. They came here on their own time, and we really appreciate that. I'd like to thank Pat Dunzer, who's with the Emerald Society, and Detective Sergeant Barossa for putting in countless hours of their own time for planning the ceremony and writing up all the awards. I'd like to thank Chief Barbalet for supporting the ceremony and supporting the PBA in all our functions. He's a truly supportive chief. And under the current administration, we formed the professional and respected department and PBA that is respected not only in Tarrytown, but the surrounding communities as well. At this time, I'd like to turn the podium over to Chief Barbalet.
Dennis is a tough act to follow, we all know that. So once again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know it's hot, and we have a lot of awards to give out tonight, so we'll try and get through as quick as we can. But I want to stress that when people listen to what we are about to read off tonight, that even though Tarrytown is this great community, things do occur here every day, and I'm very proud of these officers. So with that, I want to say that, you know, there's no greater honor than being recognized by your peers. And tonight we're going to honor those officers who have, in the opinion of their peers, acted in a manner that distinguishes themselves in their performance of their duties. While I agree wholeheartedly with this well-deserved recognition tonight, it is important to note that these officers and others provide an invaluable service to this community every day. Whether it's helping an elderly resident that has fallen down or taking a gun off the street, these officers have an impact on residents every single day. With 33 sworn police officers, our department responded to over 12,000 calls for service in 2018. That included 987 medical aids, 498 traffic accidents, over 400 arrests, and the filing of 435 criminal cases. This is all in addition to the routine patrol that we do every day. It also includes how we've expanded our reach out to the community with such programs as Coffee with a Cop, to the continued support of our DARE program, and our car seat installation program. It has brought us closer to the community, and it has been well received. Okay. Now for the awards. The awards committee received recommendations for departmental recognition from numerous sources during the past few months. These recommendations detail the actions of members of the department who distinguished themselves in the performance of duty during the time period of November 2017 through March 2019. After receiving these requests, the awards committee conducted interviews and investigations to verify these accounts. A decision whether or not to issue an award in the appropriate classification was made by a majority vote of the committee. These decisions were forwarded to the chief of police for approval. So what we'll do is I'll call the officers up. You'll come, stand here. We'll do a brief summary of your award, and then come over and receive your certificate. Okay. For the award classification of commendation, the department would like to recognize Detective Sergeant Joseph Barossa, Detective Brian Burns, Detective David Kapika, Detective Michael McGee. Don't be shy, guys. For the award classification was on police duty, for the same incident, the department would like to recognize Sergeant Anthony Palasola, who's since retired, Police Officer Matthew Garrow, and Police Officer Devon Warner. On Tuesday, February 27, 2018, the Tarrytown Police Department received a 911 call reporting a dispute at an apartment located at 177 White Plains Road in the village of Tarrytown. Upon arrival at the apartment, responding officers, Sergeant Palazzolo, Officer Garrow, and Officer Warner, were met with a battered open door and a blood-soaked scene. They immediately declared the residence for suspect and located a female victim who was semi-conscious and bleeding from gunshot wounds. The officers worked to render medical aid, rapidly transmit vital information to responding units, and secure the crime scene for future evidence collection. Members of the Detective Division responded to the scene and began to coordinate a complex investigation. During the course of this investigation, significant evidence were recovered and several important leads were generated, all culminating to the rapid development of a suspect, one Kynell Brown. Members of the Detective Division coordinated the search for Brown, receiving invaluable assistance from the FBI Safe Street Crime Task Force, the DA's office, Greenburgh Police Department, and our own Greenburgh Drug and Alcohol Task Force. After only 12 hours of following leads and gathering evidence, Brown was further identified and was apprehended as he attempted to flee the state. Kynell Brown was arrested in the Port Authority bus terminal, was indicted on several charges. Specifically, Brown has been charged with 1 count of murder in the second degree, 1 count of criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree, 1 count of criminal possession of a controlled substance in the fourth degree, 1 count of criminal possession of marijuana in the fifth degree, 2 counts of tampering with physical evidence, all felonies. This case still remains open, but if Mr. Brown is convicted, he will face life in prison. So I want to congratulate you guys. Please come up and receive your certificate. Now we'd like to recognize Detective Michael McGee, Detective Sergeant Joseph Barosta, for work classification accommodation. On November 13, 2017, at approximately 5:45 p.m., Tarrytown was dispatched to the Chase Bank for a robbery in progress. Officers learned that an unidentified man wearing a black mask entered the bank with a handgun and told the teller to give him money. The suspect escaped that day with an undisclosed sum of cash just seconds before our units arrived on scene. Numerous law enforcement resources converged on the scene, including members of the Tarrytown Detective Division. Detective McGee and Detective Sergeant Barossa were assigned to the follow-up investigation. The detectives once again worked with the FBI Safe Street Crime Task Force to try and apprehend this suspect. On December 7, 2017, the robbers struck again in Greenburgh. On December 15th, a vehicle believed to have been used in the robbery was located on the street in Yonkers. A surveillance operation was put into place, and Barossa and McGee, along with members of the task Yonkers, were tasked with surveilling this vehicle. When the suspect came out, he entered the vehicle, began to ram the vehicles that were blocking his, nearly striking several officers who were on foot near this suspect vehicle. The suspect also drew a pistol in one hand as he continued to use his vehicle as a weapon, continuing to ram these police vehicles. In an effort to end the threat, shots were fired by members of the surveillance team. The suspect was struck several times. Other officers moved in to remove the pistol from him. While other members of the team summoned assistance, Barossa and McGee assessed the suspect for injuries. Detecting no pulse, the officers performed CPR and were relieved by EMS personnel. The suspect was transported to the hospital in the Bronx, where he later died for his wounds. In the months to follow, these two detectives worked hard to clearly link this individual to the Tarrytown and Greenburgh robberies. So we would like to recognize these two officers for their fine work. Now we'd like to recognize Police Officer Patrick Dumser, Police Officer Justin Taglieri from the Hastings Police Department. You good with that? For the award classification of meritorious police duty. On February 27, 2019, Officers Patrick Dumser and Justin Taglieri were conducting plainclothes patrols as part of their assignment with the task force. Around 5:30 p.m., they were in Bridge Plaza, which is 350 South Broadway. They observed a suspicious vehicle in the far corner of the parking lot. They set up a surveillance, and a short time later, a second vehicle arrived. The drivers of both vehicles engaged in what appeared to be a hand-to-hand drug transaction, each returning to his own vehicle and pulling out in opposite directions. Officer Battaglieri and Dumser quickly stopped one vehicle. Battaglieri remained with that driver as Dumser ran on foot to catch up with the other vehicle before he was able to exit the lot. An undisclosed buyer was found to be in possession of one bag of cocaine. The seller, later identified as Luali Polino of Yonkers, was found to be in possession of 21 individual bags of cocaine packaged for sale. These two officers and other members of the Greenberg Drug and Alcohol Task Force continue the investigation. A search of the suspect's home on a road in Yonkers turned up more than a kilo of cocaine, a hydraulic kilo press, human growth hormone, and about $22,000 in cash. This individual was charged in Tarrytown with criminal sale of a controlled substance in the 3rd degree and criminal possession of a controlled substance 1st degree in Yonkers. Thank you for the job well done. We'd like to recognize Police Officer Matthew Garrow. The award classification of meritorious police duty. On Wednesday, January 3rd at approximately 2:10 a.m., Police Officer Garrow was on patrol when he observed two suspicious vehicles parked in the area of the Tarrytown Post Office. Aware of a criminal trend involving larcenies from postal collection boxes in the region, Officer Garrow continued to maintain observation. A short time later, the suspects were alerted to Officer Garrow's presence, and both vehicles began to flee the location. A white BMW began to travel in reverse west on Central Avenue. Officer Garrow followed this vehicle, stopping it near the intersection of Central Ave at Wildy Street. The driver of the vehicle was found to have a suspended license, and a search revealed he was in possession of 3 stolen personal checks. A search revealed further that there was 120 personal checks that were stolen from the Postal Street collection box and from other regions within our area. Additionally, a large amount of intelligence was gathered on the working of a widespread identity theft organization thanks to this arrest. Both the driver of the vehicle and the passenger were charged with criminal possession of stolen property in the 3rd degree and unlawful possession of personal identifying information in the 2nd degree. I don't know if anyone here has ever had their identity compromised, but this is what goes on. I was a personal victim of it, and to me this was the telltale sign of good patrol work. Congratulations. Yeah. We'd like to recognize Sergeant Dennis Smith, Officer Michael Gagliardi, Officer Christopher Scatino. For the award classification of meritorious police duty. On Saturday, August 8th, 2018, at approximately 1500 hours, Terror units were dispatched to the parking lot of 220 White Plains Road on a domestic incident. Dispatch indicated the male on the scene was suicidal, armed with a handgun, and was kicking the windows in of his wife's vehicle. Sergeant Smith and Officers Gagliardi and Scatino quickly arrived on scene, taking positions at a tactical advantage. The officers observed the man kicking the front driver's side door of a female's vehicle. The officers immediately ordered the suspect to stop, and he stopped his actions, but retreated into his parked vehicle. Verbal negotiations were initiated after a series of commands. The suspect exited the vehicle and surrendered. A loaded Glock 9mm handgun was recovered from the center console of the vehicle. The female victim was found to be uninjured, and the offender was taken into custody without anyone being injured. Guys, great job. The department recognized Douglas Weeks. For the award classification of meritorious police duty. On May 18th, 2018, at approximately 2:35 a.m., Police Officer Douglas Week was on patrol when he observed a man acting suspiciously in front of a postal collection box. See where this is going? Aware of an ongoing pattern of theft from these locations, Officer Weeks began to watch the man closely. Weeks observed the second man in a vehicle acting as a lookout. The man on foot continued to act suspicious and quickly entered the apparent lookout vehicle. Weeks initiated a car stop as the vehicle in question left the scene. Once stopped, additional units assisted Officer Weeks as he conducted a roadside investigation. Officer Weeks quickly observed a postal collection key in the center console of the vehicle. Further investigation revealed a garbage bag full of more than 100 pieces of stolen mail. In the following days, the department was able to identify 14 separate victims whose deposit of mail was stolen from a mailbox located directly in front of the post office on Route 9. One victim of the village was the Tarrytown School District, which had over $44,000 worth of checks stolen. These defendants were charged with grand larceny in the third degree and were arraigned on a 32-count indictment. Good job, Officer Lee. We'd like to recognize Sergeant Brian Macomb, Officer Dumser, Officer Infante, Officer Schubert, Sergeant Hagan, Greenberg, Detective Hennessy of Dobbs Ferry, and Detective DeLee of Greenberg. On May 31st, 2018, at approximately 8:45 p.m., Tarrytown patrolmen were dispatched to the area of 140 Wildy Street and reported carjacking in the vicinity of McDonald's. Officers later learned that a victim was exiting his vehicle, which was parked and still running, when a defendant by the name of Stanley Martinez of Sleepy Hollow entered the vehicle without the key. The victim attempted to stop him, but was met with a violent reaction. A struggle ensued, and the defendant gained the upper hand. Martinez was now in the driver's seat and took off at a high rate of speed, dragging the victim through the parking lot. As Martinez crashed over barriers in the lot, knocking down several trees along the way, the victim became detached. Martinez exited the vehicle and headed towards Main Street. Officers Infante, Schubert, and Sergeant Macon were given a description of the vehicle and began to canvass. The mentioned officer of the task force and our own Officer Dumser were in the area looking for the same car. They encountered the stolen vehicle, which had just crashed in the area of Lower Main Street. Task force and patrol officers converged and took up tactical positions. When Martinez physically resisted, a taser was deployed with little effect. A violent struggle ensued, and the officers worked together to overcome Martinez's resistance and take him into custody. Martinez was charged with robbery in the second degree and is currently serving 5 years in state prison. Well done. Well done. I'd like to recognize Sergeant Brian Macomb for the classification of meritorious police duty. On January 12, 2018, approximately 2:15 p.m., Sergeant Brian Macomb was dispatched to an outdoor construction site located at 333 South Broadway for an injury to a worker. Upon arrival, Macomb discovered that the worker in question had been cut by a circular saw. The worker was bleeding profusely from a deep laceration on the left forearm. Macomb recognized the severity of the situation immediately. The worker had lost substantial quantity of blood from a severed artery and was slipping in and out of consciousness. Macomb immediately applied his department-issued tactical tourniquet above the wound, effectively stopping the additional blood loss and potentially saving the man's life. Assisting officers arrived on scene and worked with the ambulance corps and paramedics to quickly stabilize and transfer the injured worker to the Westchester Medical Center, where he was able to make a full recovery. Good job, Sergeant. I'd like to recognize Officer Murtaugh, Officer Gagliardi. For the award classification of meritorious police duty. On June 20th, 2018, approximately 4:35 p.m., units were dispatched to Bridge Plaza for a dispute with a knife inside a restaurant at that location. Officers would later learn that the argument between the two individuals had turned violent, and one man began to menace the other with a large knife. As patrol officers Murtaugh and Gagliardi arrived on scene, they spotted the suspect in the parking lot. The suspect took off running. Gagliardi and Murtaugh gave chase on foot, ultimately overcoming him in the rear alley of the shopping center. The suspect was searched and found to be in possession of a knife he had earlier brandished. After a full investigation, he was arrested and charged with criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree, and no one was injured. Good job, officers. Officer Patrick Dumser. For the award classification of excellent police duty, in the fall of 2018, the police department began to receive anonymous complaints of drug activity in the area of Hamilton Place and the Old Croton Aqueduct. I know some people here live in that area, so I see some ears perking up. Tarrytown Police Officer Patrick Dumper, assigned to the Greenberg Drug and Alcohol Task Force, was assigned to lead the investigation of the sale of narcotics, possibly to kids going back and forth to school. After a detailed investigation and the use of surveillance and undercover buys, Dumser established a suspect who resided on Hamilton Place in our own village. Dumser was able to obtain a search warrant for the suspect's home and executed the same on October 18, 2018, with our own members and members of the task force. A search of the home found a large amount of marijuana, concentrated cannabis oil, cannabis edible, including those designed and marketed for candy and those of our children. The suspect was charged with felony criminal sale of controlled substance, criminal sale of marijuana, along with felony criminal possession. Nice job, officer. Officer Douglas Weeks. I know I should have put him in order. That's joke. On June 30th, 2018, approximately 2:15 a.m., members of the Tarrytown Police Department received reports from Sleepy Hollow that a gold Nissan Murano had just been stolen from their jurisdiction. Upon hearing the description, Officer Weeks began patrolling the Tarrytown-Sleepy Hollow border. Weeks spotted a vehicle fitting that reported description driving through the rear parking lot of 100 College Avenue. Officer Weeks began to follow the vehicle and was able to block and stop the vehicle in question without incident. The operator was quickly arrested and turned over to Sleepy Hollow Police, and we didn't even charge him. Good job, officer. Detective Sergeant Barosa, Detective Burns, Detective Kapika, and Detective McGee. Did you retire? On January 18, 2019, at approximately 5:30 p.m., members of the department were notified that an undisclosed rape victim was being treated at the medical center in connection with an incident that occurred in our own village. Detectives McGee and Detectives Burns responded to the hospital and began the process of gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses. At the same time, Sergeant Barosa and Detective Kapika responded to the crime scene to look for forensic evidence. After completing these tasks and comparing investigative notes, a suspect was developed. Later that same night, members of the Detective Division traveled to White Plains to follow up on investigative leads garnered earlier in the evening. As detectives canvassed White Plains downtown area, they spotted the defendant walking on Mamaroneck Avenue. He was taken into custody without further incident only 7 hours after the crime was first reported. After an interview, he was placed under arrest and charged with rape in the first degree. And thank you for getting him off the street. Sergeant Jones, Sergeant Macomb, Officer Matt Yarrow, and Officer Ian Yearwood. For award classification of excellent police duty, the department would like to recognize these officers. In recognition of their actions on January 20th, 2018, in successfully utilizing Narcan and CPR to revive two separate victims of opioid overdose at the Speedway gas station, 386 South Broadway. For those who don't know, it's in our news every day. The epidemic hits Tarrytown, it hits a lot of households, and we're gonna have a few of these awards, but you guys, thank you for a good job. Officer Gagliardi. For the award classification of excellent police duty, the department would like to recognize this officer. In recognition of his actions on February 13th, 2018, in successfully utilizing CPR to revive an unconscious, unresponsive elderly male at a residence on Terrace Avenue. Thank you for your service. Sergeant Cole, Sergeant Coilly, Officer Butler, Officer John Garrow. For the award classification of excellent police duty, the department would like to recognize the officers. In recognition of their actions on June 10th, 2018, in successfully utilizing Narcan to revive an unconscious victim of an attempted suicide at a residence in the village of Tarrytown. Nice job, officers.
My younger days.
Sergeant Jem Piccolo, Officer Warner, Officer Weeks. For the award classification of excellent police duty, the department would like to recognize these officers. In recognition of their actions on February 10th, 2019, and successfully reviving two separate individuals during the same shift. First, at approximately 6:30 p.m., the officer successfully administered Narcan to a female overdose victim at an undisclosed residence in the village of Tarrytown. Then, in the same shift, approximately 3 hours later, the officers were dispatched to another residence where they successfully used CPR to revive an unconscious, unresponsive individual. That's some tour, and good job, guys. Sergeant Macomb, Officer Vasquez, Officer Yearwood. For the award classification of excellent police duty, the department would like to recognize these officers. In recognition of their actions on February 18th, 2019, in successfully reviving an unconscious male by using both CPR and an AED at a residence in Powderhorn Way. Good job, officers. Sergeant Quilly, Officer Toth, Officer Warner, and Officer Turcott. For the award classification of excellent police duty, the department would like to recognize these officers. In recognition of their actions on March 19th, 2019, and successfully utilizing Narcan to revive an unconscious opioid overdose victim found in a bathroom of an undisclosed business in the village of Tarrytown. Nice job. So for Tarrytown, even though Pat's, that's the awards for Tarrytown. As I mentioned a few times, people don't know, we're involved in a drug and alcohol task force that's comprised of several different jurisdictions. I don't know, so we'd like to recognize some of the ones that are here, so I'll call out your name. If you're here from the task force, please come on up. There's Sergeant Sean Hagan of Greenberg, Sergeant Steve Doherty of Sleepy Hollow. Don't be shy. I know I made fun of Sleepy Hollow, but come on up. Sergeant Kevin Johnson of Irvington, Detective Hennessy of Dobbs Ferry, Detective Perkins of Ardsley, Detective Belia of Greenberg, Detective Tarantino of Ardsley, Officer Dumser of Tarrytown, Officer Guzzo of Sleepy Hollow, and Officer Batigliaria of Hastings. I'm trying, Justin. There's also Sergeant Patsy DeBenedictis of North Castle, and Detective Kevin Finatieri of North Castle. So a little brief, this will be the last one, I promise. So a little brief history. The Greenberg Drug and Alcohol Task Force was created by an intermunicipal agreement back in November of 2002. The task force is a unit of plainclothes police officers and detectives from the villages of Ardsley, Dobbs Ferry, Elmsford, Hastings, Irvington, Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, and the towns of Greenberg and North Castle. Faced with the limitations of local narcotics investigations, a call for action in the area of underage drinking, and the mood for reform in the area of shared services, this task force was the brainchild of then Dobbs Ferry Police Chief George Longworth. He, along with a captain, Joseph DeLeo, contemplating combining these forces and enhancing our ability to investigate these types of crimes. The task force was formed to effectuate a joint service committed to the reduction of drug and alcohol-related crimes through undercover operations. Longworth served as the unit's first coordinator. The formation marked a major structural change for each of those involved and their police departments. Investigative resources and manpower were pooled together, and decision-making was centralized into an organization that reaches well beyond political and geographical jurisdictions. Today, Tarrytown's police chief, myself, serves as the task force coordinator. It's a position I hold with high regard, as having been the first Tarrytown police officer assigned to this unit back in 2002. The current unit is currently led by Commanding Officer Sergeant Sean Hagan of Greenburgh, who has served in this role since 2016. Under his supervision, this team has conducted interjurisdictional investigations in a variety of criminal categories, but concentrates on the focus of detection of narcotic sales, possession, overdose, as well as illegal sales of alcohol to minors. Members of this task force and those before them have effected approximately 6,000 arrests since 2002. And while the task force has a good regional effect to other roles involved, few communities have benefited like Tarrytown has. And there are a few highlights that Tarrytown has benefited from. In 2005, the Russell Laurie pharmacy investigation, where the pharmacist was alleged to have made more than $4 million in 3 years by overcharging his customers and shorting their prescriptions. It was estimated that he had billed customers, and we seized over $650,000 from his residence. In June of 2013, a vehicle stop led to the seizure of $346,000 and 11 pounds of marijuana. In April of 15, a vehicle stop led to the seizure of over 10,000 bags of heroin. As we said before, with all those overdoses, we have to fight it on both ends. We're here to help the community, and we're here to enforce it. They've also made, in the village of Tarrytown, more than 1,500 arrests for drug sales and possessions and other minor crimes. They've recovered several dozen firearms. They've had numerous narcotic search warrants and numerous arrests dealing with underage drinking. Investigative support has been offered by this task force in every major incident you've heard about. The homicide we had, rapes, burglaries. Anytime we need someone, we can call the task force, and we have 6 or 7 experienced officers that come and assist our detectives at the drop of a dime. Okay? I can't thank them enough, and guys, job well done. So this concludes our award ceremony for this evening. And as Sergeant Smith said before, I've been here, this is my 25th year. And what would happen in the past is they'd have these awards. These guys would go to a room by themselves and they'd hand out the awards. So we started to talk and say that I'm very proud to be the chief of this department, and your family should know what you guys do. They should know what you're doing when you're missing that birthday party, when you can't go to that wedding, to know that they're here and what they're doing for this community. I know that it's quite evident that the village residents, the elected officials, employees, our officers and their families should be extremely proud of this department, because I know I am. And thank you once again to all for your service. Thank you. Good job.
Are passing through. You know? I know. Unless they all want to stay.
Among other things, a lot of life saving went on. They nabbed the bad guys, and they saved a lot of lives. So it was truly a inspiring event we had. We did do the pledge already, so we're going to go right into our meeting. Anybody have any reports?
Okay.
Oh wait, before you start, I just want to say, Trustee Hoyt, who was unable to come tonight, sent his regrets for not being able to attend the police ceremony.
Yes.
We didn't get to tell the police that, but we'll pass it along.
I'm sure Paul too.
And Paul as well.
Okay. Ready?
They missed the bagpipes.
Yeah.
That was very
That was
impressive.
nice.
All right, so I just want to remind everybody that if you don't know by now, the pool will be opening this Saturday at 10 a.m. Look forward to seeing you all down there. Hopefully, if you are not a member, you can join that day. Thanks.
Yes, also this weekend is the opening weekend of TASH, the Tarrytown Sleepy Hollow Farmers Market. Opening day, and every Saturday from here through Thanksgiving, 8:30 to 2 p.m. To see more about the vendors and what you can expect to find in the market, you can look at tashfarmersmarket.org. So please all come out.
And they're having some festivities.
For opening day,
right?
yes, they are. Yes, they are. And
So
that
is the pool.
information's also.
Yes.
No, go to the market.
We're having a DJ, yes? Or?
Pool open Saturday.
Pool open Saturday and Tash
10.
starts Saturday.
Yes.
Yes,
I
it's
think they're doing the events at Tash from 10 o'clock to noon or something?
11. It starts,
Okay.
the events are 11.
Event start at 11. Thank you, everybody. And wanted to give a shout out to the organizers of Sleepy Hollow Lit Fest. It was just an amazing Saturday. There were 8 festivities were going on all day, and there were special events at 8 locations throughout the 2 villages. So thank you to Sleepy Hollow and to Tarrytown. I heard rumors of shuttles, although myself I didn't actually see one, but
Okay. We did have shuttles operating.
okay, good. Anyway, so thanks to the organizers of that. It was really, really a great event.
Okay.
I just want to say, not with regard to that, but I actually took advantage of the county's toxic substance disposal day. I went
Toxic
early on
chemical.
Saturday morning.
Yep.
And I just, when it comes up again, if anybody has stuff in the garage, it was great. It was painless. Took me, it's at the Murph down the thruway where Stu Leonard's and Costco are, on the opposite side. Took like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they were
Well-
really good. They had quite an operation. It might have gotten busier by the afternoon, but
Yeah.
it was
Well-
very quick at 9:30 in the morning.
Well, I think they do allow regular drop-offs as long as you schedule an appointment.
Yeah, you have to make appointments.
Yes.
Right.
But
I didn't hear
you did yours at the Murph. Yes,
Oh.
the scheduled appointments are regularly available at
In
Valhalla, but
Valhalla.
you did yours at the
I
Murph.
did it in Yonkers.
Okay.
It was really, I was expecting to sit on a line for half an hour and it took no time at all. So, got rid of a lot of stuff that's been sitting in my garage for many years. We don't have any changes or additions to the agenda, Richard?
A couple of quick things. I did send out a notification today to the Lowell Park neighborhood, which was a little premature. We are going to repave those streets around Lowell Park after the project is done as part of this year's paving. In the meantime, we are having paving done finally at the Paulding and Van Wart neighborhoods as part of the money and grant funding we received from the New York Bridge project that's scheduled to start Tuesday after Memorial Day. So that'll be happening next week. I did notify the homeowners. If there's anybody watching tonight, please let your neighbors know. We will be having that paving done next week. And then finally, the Miller Park, I met with the police chief, and I went around with the superintendent of public works and the village engineer to look at the locations for the speed humps.
Not bumps.
So we submitted those to the engineering company, and we're planning to have a meeting shortly. The goal is to get those specified, publicly bid, and then installed sometime before the end of the summer, before school starts.
May I just add one thing? I'd just like to remind the residents that, and Becky mentioned that the pool is opening, and parking lot E requires a Tarrytown parking recreational permit.
Yes.
So I would hope that everybody reaches out and gets that permit.
It's
because
free.
It's free and available here at Village Hall. We just need
And
proof of
online.
residency.
And tomorrow, the senior citizens can get it over at the senior center. We have Joan Rollins going to be over there
Great.
Okay.
for that.
It goes from June to June, right? June
Is
1
it
to...
calendar year, Jim, or?
June 1, June to May,
It's fiscal year.
yeah, so June 1,
June to May 31st.
right, to May 31st.
So what do you need? You need just your car registration? That's it?
Car
you need
registration, and there's a form.
Right. Okay.
That has your address on it. Does that have your, do you need to prove your,
Yeah, your registration has your address.
your registration has
Yes.
your
Yeah.
address on it? Okay,
You have to prove that you're.
right, so you don't need to prove it, because it has that.
All right. Okay, next we have the continuation of the public hearing on Architectural Review Board requirements. We'll open, and we're gonna continue the public hearing to, the
Forever.
next meeting, and June 17th, but I'll take a motion to reopen the public
So
hearing.
moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't believe there's anybody here to speak on that, so I'll take a motion to continue the public hearing, until Monday, June 17th, 2019.
So,
motion.
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and next we have a continuation of the public hearing amending the village code regarding operating bicycles on the sidewalk. Have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I assume we have one commenter?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Convisor. I'm the director of Bike Tarrytown. I'd like to thank the trustees and mayor for their time this evening. Also, I want to thank everyone involved for responding to the community's concerns and by removing subsection C from the proposed bill. That's great. It will help the village residents and perception of outsiders coming to the village. And we encourage you to similarly address the following concerns. The bill would require 13-year-olds to bike in traffic. And please be aware that kids don't obtain the developmental ability to reliably walk across busy streets in a safe manner until they're 14 years old. 14 years old. And cycling amongst traffic is much more complicated than walking. Riding involves calculating multiple moving vehicles, parked vehicles, people walking, road surface conditions, in addition to one's own motion. Avoidable crossings need to be considered. Banning biking on Broadway's western sidewalk south of Cobb Lane would require people riding to and from the north to cross Broadway at Cobb Lane. This intersection is dangerous place to cross due to the lack of crosswalks, good sight lines, let alone traffic signals. Similarly, people riding to and between destinations on Broadway's west side, such as Yola Crepe, Kumon, CVS, Warner Library, would have to cross Broadway at McKeel Avenue. And that intersection is Tarrytown's second most dangerous for people walking, with 18 people injured between 1987 and 2016. And appearances. If this sidewalk cycling is prohibited, has the village pondered how to inform the public of it? If signs are being thought of, please consider how no cycling signs will be perceived. Does Tarrytown want to be a welcoming environment? Simplicity. Laws work best when they're simple and understandable and conform to what people normally would behave as, but you want to kind of control. So with that in mind, going through the streets, street by street, in the list that was discussed, I can group them into like 3 categories of concerns. One is hills, and basically when you're biking on a hill and you're going, what am I saying? So people biking want to stay off the street and kind of avoid interacting with motor vehicles due to the possibility of being overtaken and hit by a car being passed. So the speed involved, the differential in speed, is what makes that happen. And so when you're going down a hill on a bicycle, you're going fast enough to not really have that worry. You're going fast as the vehicle, so it's not a concern being overtaken, so therefore you don't really need to ride on the sidewalk for that shelter. And so all the streets that are involved with hills, such as Altamont, McKeel, Neprin, Maine, below Bayless, White Street, Franklin, that's really not a concern of biking on the sidewalk there. And if you're biking up the hill, you're going to be going really slow. So again, you're not a threat to pedestrians. So those streets are really not a major problem as far as safety for people walking. And then there are a bunch of low-volume streets where there are few people walking or driving on, so limiting them is really not key. Safety concerns such as Washington Street, Broadway between Franklin and Elizabeth, and also John Street and Caldenberg Place. And then the last category is places where there's ample space available, pardon me, such as Broadway between Wilde to Central. There's plenty of room for people to interact comfortably in those areas. And finally, I dropped off a petition that I picked up at, had people sign at the Duck Derby, and has 28 signatures of people who want to keep sidewalk cycling as an option and request the village address car crashes, which cause 4 people on Broadway to be injured each year. And thank you very much. Yeah.
There's no one else here, so can I have a motion to continue the public hearing
Make a
till
motion to
Monday?
continue the
Wait,
public
let me
hearing.
finish. Till Monday, June 17th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the revised text may be republished prior to adoption. Nobody else here to speak on agenda items unless there's something on the agenda? So we'll move on. First order of business here is the National Gun Violence Awareness Day, whereas according to the Center for Disease Control, in 2017, there were 39,773 deaths caused by guns in the United States, up by more than 1,000 from the year before, with countless others injured. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people, and whereas anyone can join this campaign and pledge to wear orange on June 2nd to help raise, I feel like the date was changed, no?
They did change, yes, it's Friday, June 7th.
So wear orange on Friday, June 7th. To help raise awareness about gun violence and help honor the lives and lost human potential of Americans stolen away by gun violence. And whereas in support of the effort of the national organization Moms Demand Action, we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown hereby joins with groups across America to declare Friday, June 7th, 2019 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the Village of Tarrytown, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and declare that we as a nation must do more to reduce gun violence and prevent guns from getting into the wrong hands.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have the provisional appointment of a parking enforcement officer, school crossing guard. In the police department, be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby provisionally appoint Maxwell H. Jones of Tarrytown, New York, to the position of parking enforcement officer, school crossing guard, effective Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019, at an annual salary of $45,237, subject to all civil service rules and regulations, and subject to the provisions of the contract between the village and the CSEA.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Appointment of seasonal employee in the Parks Department. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby appoint Brian Puff of Tarrytown, New York, to the part-time seasonal position of laborer, Parks Department, at an hourly rate of $13.50 per hour, effective May 28th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Appointment of a building department intern. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby appoint Samantha B. Hines as building department intern at an hourly rate of $13.50 per hour, effective May 28th, 2019, subject to the village engineer and village administrator's approval.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Rich, this is a summer appointment, correct?
Correct.
So should it say that, or, okay?
This was the person that was brought forward by
No,
one
no,
of the-
I understand, no, just in terms of it being summer, that we didn't note the, it just
Yes,
says
it should say summer,
summer intern?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
This is May 28th until when? What,
Rich, do you have an
Uh,
end date?
I'm sorry?
Is there an end date certain, or?
I don't know.
So for
I believe it's summer, so I would say Labor Day.
Okay. Unless otherwise, between May 28th, 2019 and Labor Day, unless otherwise changed by the village administrator.
Correct.
As amended, that motion?
so moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Summer camp employee. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve the following 2019 summer day camp employment schedule as submitted by the recreation supervisor, which I will not read since it's very long. This list will be attached to the minutes of this meeting.
And just, I think the board had raised some questions about what justifies the pay scales that they get. It's based on the number of years they've actually been participating in camp, and it also relates to any certifications or other things they might have. So that's what is the,
Well, I understood that, but I think that in terms of steps, but that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
I understood it was different years.
Yep.
But there's no way to equate that with these values.
I understand.
That was the only thing.
so
So I don't have a problem with that. I was just going forward in the future, perhaps we can do steps.
I'll get that from the rec
Okay.
office.
Did we pass it? No. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The Tarrytown Lieutenants, Police Lieutenants Collective Bargaining Agreement, be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve the 5-year memorandum of agreement and collective bargaining contract between the Village of Tarrytown and the Tarrytown Lieutenants Association effective from June 1, 2019 through May 31, 2024. The authorized salary increases are 2.5%, 2.6%, 2.5%, 2.6%, and 2.5% respectively each year of this 5-year collective bargaining agreement. This agreement also includes a change in the rate of health insurance contribution, and be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize and direct the village administrator to execute the contract on behalf of the Village of Tarrytown.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I really mean it.
Parking Task Force. Comprehensive Plan Management Committee. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of Tarrytown does hereby vote to establish a parking task force based on the recommendations of the Comprehensive Plan Management Committee, CPMC, and directs the village administrator to work with the CPMC and Mayor Fixell as liaison to this committee to establish a mission statement and recommend a list of persons to participate in this committee, to make further recommendations to the board in terms of facilities, rates, hours, and technology that could be used here in the Village of Tarrytown.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agreement with the Westchester Parks Foundation, and Rich, I actually have a question here on the wording of this.
Sure.
It says, for the purpose of supporting the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation.
I don't know
can't-
why it says a 5-year agreement, honestly.
Oh, it's also a 5-year agreement.
Yeah, the specific purpose of this agreement is for fundraising effort that the rec committee
Right.
wants to see to fund the band shell in Patriots
In
Park.
Patriots Park, yes.
So if you want to just take out to execute an agreement
Okay.
and leave the 5 years out.
But the question of.
It is the Tarrytown, if you want to just say Department of Parks.
Okay, but we don't, do we actually have a Department of Parks?
Well, agreement with the Westchester Parks Foundation for the purpose of supporting the
the-
Department of Parks.
But,
Or if you want to just delete that.
but don't we not officially have a Department of Parks? That was my sort of question.
So
It
for the
should be-
you want to delete that line, Westchester Parks Foundation for assistance in the administration of fundraising activities to benefit the Village of
Or the
Tarrytown.
parks of the Village of Tarrytown. For the parks of the Village of Tarrytown? Let's do it
So-
that way.
Agreement with Westchester Parks Foundation for assistance in the administration of fundraising activities to benefit the Village of Tarrytown, specifically for Patriots Park.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, now I'll read it from the top.
Okay.
I think. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize and direct the village administrator to execute an agreement with the Westchester Parks Foundation for the purpose of supporting and for assistance.
Westchester Parks Foundation for assistance in the
For assistance in the
administration
administration of fundraising activities to benefit the Village of Tarrytown, specifically for the Patriots Park.
Yeah, on a question here,
Yes,
you left out 5 years. You want to
Yes.
leave that out?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
moved as amended.
All,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Next, Tarrytown Self-Storage 2, Depot Plaza, rezoning WD Waterfront Zoning District to ID Industrial District. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby refer the request from the Tarrytown Self-Storage 2 at Depot Plaza to the Planning Board for review and recommendation for the purpose of rezoning the property from WD Waterfront Zoning District to ID Industrial District, which will allow them to use the property.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorization to purchase a sanitation truck. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize the purchase of a regular rear-load sanitation truck with tipping arms on the back for the Department of Public Works, as provided in the Village Capital Improvement Program for the schedule of vehicle replacements. And be it further resolved that the village administrator is authorized to sign the necessary documents for this purchase, and the village anticipates that the funds for purchase will either be from operating funds, appropriation of surplus, or future issuance of debt.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A multi-municipality IMA for New York State DEC grant to fund a recycling app. Rich, maybe you want to briefly describe what this is?
Sure. Sustainable Westchester became aware of a grant and also an app that would simplify and standardize information across a slate of municipalities so that people in each community could access our website, and we would all have that app available. By purchasing it as a group, we were able to reduce the costs to each municipality, and the Village of Tarrytown agreed to act as the lead to apply for the grant to the state, and we cut our costs in half getting this grant. So let's say the total cost of the app might be $38,000. We'll collect the money from the municipalities, make payment to the app provider, and then we'll submit for reimbursement to the state, and then circulate the money to.
We're putting the money out first, and we're getting it.
We're gonna
back.
get the money from the municipalities,
Right.
pay it all in one lump sum thing,
Right.
and then receive
Oh,
the
okay.
reimbursement, and then give it back to the municipality. So we're not fronting the money for
Oh,
it.
we're not, I thought we were, okay.
No.
And so this app is gonna tell people what they need to do to get to recycle, what goes where.
Exactly right.
What the days and
Right.
all that stuff.
All the information will be in one place and easily
Yes.
accessible.
Good.
Yep.
Good call.
Okay.
So you don't have to read everything if you want to just read the resolved.
Okay, well, I'll
You know.
read the first one. Whereas the Village of Tarrytown, acting as the lead, applied for and received a grant from the New York State DEC for a recycling app on behalf of a group of municipalities, with the proceeds of the grant to be shared by the partnering municipalities in order to reduce the cost of the app for each municipality by approximately 50%. I'll read the participating municipalities are as follows: Bronxville, Greenberg, Harrisontown, Hastings-on-Hudson, Irvington, Mamaroneck Village, New Rochelle, Ossining, Pelham Village, Tarrytown, and Tuckahoe. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize and direct the village administrator to enter into and execute an IMA with the municipalities listed above in order to apply for and process reimbursement from the New York State DEC for a multi-jurisdictional recycling grant to help fund the implementation of a common platform informational app with such IMA subject to review and approval by the village attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, vehicle and traffic amendment, open parking area in residential districts. Again, Rich, you want to briefly summarize this?
To put this simply, when we got the residential parking permit system approved by New York State, we're supposed to maintain a certain amount of each street as 20% available for people who are non-residents. For some reason, Drew, I think you recalled that when the village adopted this, we might have consolidated all that space on Miller.
Right, it looks
Park.
that way, yeah. I wasn't
or
here
Miller-
when we first.
Miller
adopted
Avenue.
this.
So, but we're looking, in that, we kind of look at it as an oversight that Independence and Park did not have the 20% area set up.
It was put far away, apparently, is
Correct.
what it
So the
seems
police
to be.
chief and we've also had some issues with residents who live in the area who live on Broadway, but can't get by the law, they can't obtain the permits, so we're trying to accommodate them and allow them to park on the streets. So this would establish the no permit required areas out by Broadway near those residents.
Okay. Be it resolved that currently Village Code 291-52 addresses the areas reserved for parking permit holders. In accordance with the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 1640 F4D, not less than 20% of all spaces within the permit area shall be made available to non-residents and shall provide for short-term parking of not less than 90 minutes in duration in such area. Now, be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby authorize the following code change to move the 20% of short-term spaces to the eastern portion of both Park Avenue and Independence Street. New language is in underlined bold print. The language to remove is struck out in italic print. Areas reserved, Section 291-52, areas reserved for parking permit holders. The following off-street parking areas shall be reserved exclusively for holders of parking permits issued under 291-45 through 291-51 of this article. It shall be unlawful for any person to park any vehicle in such area unless such person is the holder of a valid parking permit for such vehicle. C, Independence Street. A, the north side's permit parking will be from a point 140 feet west of Route 9 to Miller Avenue. And B, the south side, permit parking only from a point 150 feet west of Route 9 to Miller Avenue. There are strikeouts of an entire lane for the most part. 13, Park Avenue. A, north side, permit parking only from a point 142 feet west of Route 9 to Miller Avenue, and the south side, permit parking only from a point 150 feet west of Route 9 to Miller Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tax certiorari's. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve the settlement of the following tax certiorari cases as outlined in the Village Tax Certiorari Attorney's Correspondence dated May 9th, 2019. Tarrytown Hall Care Center, 20 Court, $93,551.71. 455 Hospitality at 455 South Broadway, $29,264.19. Hudson Harbor 2 Condominium, West Main Street, $10,683.32. JB Realty Enterprises LLC, 21 North Broadway, $5,598.83. Joseph and Marie Russo, 37 Church Street, $1,885.05. And Tarrytown Center Associates, 113 South Broadway, $2,558.40. Be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees may fund these tax certiorari's from a future financing resolution.
So moved.
Actually, if I could ask the board to add in the standard through operating surplus or future issuance of debt, because we can determine that from a
Right.
later standpoint.
As amended.
As amended.
You got a motion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the minutes. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees held on May 8th, 2019, as submitted by the village clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You know what, there was some, all that talking about no parking reminded me of something I saw earlier today on Facebook. And that is that the Tarrytown Sleepy Hollow Memorial Day Parade is on Monday, the
Oh, yeah.
27th of May. And please, everybody, come out
That's right, we
and
should
show
have
your
said
support.
that.
But also, there is no parking allowed on the streets during the posted hours. That's Main Street from Broadway to Windle Park, Broadway from Main Street to Patriots Park from 7 a.m. to 11, and that's the Monday of Memorial Day weekend.
The PD will put out big
And
signs.
big
When's
sign.
the parade start?
The parade
9,
starts at 9.
9.
Just a question, clarification, Jim. We have a motion and a second on that tax certiorari?
Oh.
Or Rich?
Oh, did we have it?
Yeah.
I wrote down, hold on.
Yeah, okay.
I heard a so moved. I
Yeah, I
wrote
heard
down Doug and Karen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I just heard so moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Darn.
Yeah,
Rich amended it,
Yeah. Maybe.
That's right.
Oh,
I-
okay.
Yeah.
So,
That's what,
okay.
that's what it was, as amended,
Yes.
right, yes.
As amended,
Yep.
okay.
Vouchers. Be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Tarrytown does hereby approve abstract number 21 of audited vouchers in the total amount of $877,016.30 as presented by the village treasurer. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
I vote yes.
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 Yes. Okay, there's no other members of the public here, so I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor?
Uh,
And we will see
I'll make that motion,
next meeting is June 17th.
That's
Happy
right.
Memorial
Monday,
Day.
We're going to the summer schedule of 1 per month for June, July, and August. Thanks and good night.